League One always used to be the most boring league in the Football League, sandwiched in between the thrilling Championship and the chaotic League Two, but now it is full of so-called sleeping giants all believing they have the right to Championship football. So in this video, I've attempted to predict this unpredictable league, and will also give my assessment on all the clubs' summer business. 2 points of order before we begin. This league is extremely close, so if you see your club lower than you think is fair, bear in mind I've had to place some above others on very small matters, and in some cases just blind gut feeling. Second point is there's still another month of transfers yet to happen at time of recording, so I'm not going to second guess transfer business that hasn't happened yet, and my predictions will be purely based on the squads at this time. Right, now that's out of the way, let's get started. Accrington Stanley, 15th. I'm a big fan of how Accrington run things. They recruit cheap from non-league and they sell on for big profits. Unfortunately, this means that they're not really going to be able to progress further than League One, barring miracles. Especially in transfer windows like this, where although they've made some good, smart free transfers like Sean Wally and Mo Singari, their departures are going to be hard to replace. Ross Sykes leaving for the Belgian League, Colby Bishop leaving for Portsmouth, and Matt Butcher leaving for Plymouth. Seeing the spine of their team gone will be hard, but they still have good quality in their squad, so I don't see them being dragged into a relegation battle. Sean McConville, Harry Pell and Tommy Lee will be the key players for me. Barnsley, 9th. It's really not easy for Barnsley to flourish in the current market. They do well and their manager gets stolen, they do badly and their players get stolen. Cooley Woodrow, Carlton Morris and Callum Britton all out the door in this window. Given the first two's departures, it's going to be tough to come by goals, despite them trying to replace them in the shape of James Norwood on a free transfer. And the relative strength of all the other teams in the top half of the division, it's going to be a tough year for Barnsley. Bolton, 6th. After keeping an eye on Twitter the last few days, I feel like I may be one of the only people that's keeping an eye on Bolton. They haven't necessarily made waves in the transfer market yet, but their signings have been smart nonetheless. I particularly like the acquisition of Owen Tarwett, centre-back from Derry City. Their main success has been able to keep together large parts of the squad from last season, especially likes of Dapo Afolayan, who's bound to be amongst the goals, and Jan Darby Bavarsson, who I think is well above League One standards. And it's because of this, I reckon Bolton will just sneak into the playoffs ahead of some other big clubs. Bristol Rovers, 16th. Coming up from League 2 this year is going to be tough for all the teams that have gained promotion, but I feel like Bristol Rovers just have enough quality and momentum from that promotion to carry them over, especially with the experience of manager Joey Barton. I also have a feeling that the signing of hit and miss striker John Marquis will actually be a hit for the gas, so I'm sure with a bit of shithousery on Joey Barton's part, they will be just fine. Bert and Albion, 13th. Burton continued to grow under Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank and have made some smart deals during this transfer window. I particularly like the signing of Davis Keeler-Dunn from Oldham. Him, in addition to the existing squad who earned a respectable finish last year, I feel like Burton will be strong this year, but not strong enough to break into the top half. Cambridge United, 17th. Cambridge were very solid last season, and I expect them to continue this theme this season, considering there haven't been any major exits from their squad yet. If Joe Ironside is still a Cambridge player by September, then there will be no threat of relegation for the Ambers. Charlton, 10th. Although this would be a vast improvement on last season, this still isn't where the Addicts really want to be. Manager Ben Garner is promising fans patient passing football, but I still don't believe they have the strength and depth to really challenge the playoffs. If they have any chance of finishing higher than I've predicted, then they need striker Jaden Stockley to start firing. On the transfer front, Charlton have actually done quite well, raiding Swindon for Egbo, Wallacott and Payne. And also I quite like the signing of Conor McGrandles from Lincoln, but they are yet to really replace the departing Connor Washington. Cheltenham Town, 14th. It would have been hard to tell that Cheltenham were a League 2 club 2 years ago, although there is a possibility of regression after losing their manager. Despite this, they still kept the large majority of their star players together, with the exception of Will Ball departing for Huddersfield. But with Alfie May up front, I'm confident Cheltenham can still record a relatively high finish. Derby County, 4th. Despite me having them in the playoffs, I don't see an instant return to the Championship for the Rams. Although their transfer business has caught the eye, I still don't think it's quite enough to be one of the best teams in this league. Although if they can get James Collins firing, I will be frightened. Conor Hourihane is also a particularly smart signing to shore up the midfield and add some experience to the ranks. As for the players they've retained, I feel like Max Bird will be a key player, playmaking from deep in midfield. So yes, Derby do have a strong squad, but it will take time to gel all these new signings. Exeter City, 20th. Although 20th does sound quite low for the Devon club, 20th would be quite a successful season of avoiding relegation. I feel that Matt Jay will be able to step up to League One football, and his ability, combined with the abilities of manager Matt Taylor, will be enough to see Exeter stay up. Fleetwood Town, bottom. I think this has been a while coming for Fleetwood. Although I do like the signings of the two Joshes and Vella and Earl, I still don't think it will remotely be enough to keep this team up. It's going to be a tough first year in management for Scott Brown. Forest Green Rovers, 18th. Forest Green have had quite a rough summer, losing some key players. Abu Adams leaving for Cardiff is a particularly hurtful one. But I feel like they were such a strong team last year, and as a club as a whole I still believe they're on the up. Ipswich Town, second. It does appear that everything is finally falling into place for Ipswich. Two big statement signings in Freddie Ladapo and Marcus Harness have made them a lot of people's favourites. And after an impressive start, Kieran McKenna seems like the right man to take Ipswich forward. I feel the only thing that can stop Ipswich now is if the players struggle to manage with the expectation placed on them by the fans. Lincoln City, 23rd. Lincoln are the team narrowly being relegated in my predictions. Losing Cohen Bramwell to Rotherham and Conor McGrandles to Charlton is sure to hurt them. Carl Rushworth is a good signing from Brighton on loan, but I don't think it's anywhere near enough to save them. Milton Keynes, 9th. Another club having a tough transfer window with Harry Darling, David Kasumu and Scott Twine all leaving to Championship clubs. Some neat signings so far with Nathan Holland and Jack Tucker joining from West Ham and Gillingham, but when you compare Nathan Holland to Scott Twine, it's just not the same. I don't think they're going to have the legs to compete in such a competitive league this year. Morecambe, 22nd. Morecambe have caused me quite the headache in these predictions, but I'm just about predicting them to go down. At time of recording, Cole Stockton is still a Morecambe player, and I haven't seen many rumours linking anyone to him, but I can't see him staying there for the whole season. Derek Adams is also a manager hard to predict. The man has 2 promotions on his CV. He also has a habit of letting things slip when things goes against him, as was the case at Plymouth. Although I'm still doubting myself while saying this, I will say Morecambe will go down. Oxford United, 8th. Wow, the Championship has really raided League One this year. Luke McNally the victim this time, leaving for Burnley. Despite this, I don't think he'll be a massive miss for Oxford. They should still be a good enough squad to be challenging the outside of the playoffs, but not quite good enough to be breaking in based on their transfer business so far. Yannick Wiltshire is a good addition, but not enough to completely transform the whole squad, and so it will be just narrowly missing out on the playoffs for Oxford. Peterborough United, 5th. My instinct was Peterborough weren't going to be threatening promotion too much this year, but looking at their squad, it is very strong. They still have a Championship core to the squad, and many young prospects such as Ricky J. Jones and Kwame Poku who could be threatening. Whether Peterborough finish in or out of the playoffs depends on whether they can get Johnson Clark Harris firing. Although they do have other options that could be strong, and so with this depth in mind, I've put Peterborough in the playoffs. Plymouth Argyle, 12th. Many have praised Steve Schumacher for being able to replace Ryan Lowe so well. I feel like his inability to see out the playoffs last year is a sign of more slipping to come. Although if they can make home park as much of a fortress as they did last year, they will finish higher. Port Vale, 2nd bottom. I think Port Vale fans will be the first to admit that they haven't made the additions yet that they'd want to, but they got promoted for a reason and they will be challenging opponents. If striker James Wilson gets firing, I know it could be a different story, but I don't see it happening. Portsmouth, 3rd. Now, I have to admit a conflict of interest here. I am a Portsmouth fan. And to be honest, I wasn't expecting to place them as high as I have. But looking at our transfer business and looking at the clubs around us squads, I just feel more confident. The only thing that has haunted Portsmouth for the last few seasons is goals. Although we have signed Colby Bishop for a large fee, it's whether or not he can get firing will determine our season. But the depth in midfield and in defence is sublime, and for that reason, I've placed us high. Sheffield Wednesday, 1st. Out of all the teams that have come down to League One over the last couple of years and struggled to get out, I feel like Sheffield Wednesday were in the strongest position when they first came down. For that reason, they're in an even stronger position now. Despite losing Hutchinson to Reading, they've made some really good signings. Michael, and forgive me for this pronunciation, Ikwekwe is bound to be a good replacement for him, and Michael Smith joining Lee Gregory up top is very scary, as well as reinforcements to join Barry Bannon being Tyreek Bakinson and Will Volks in midfield. I think it's going to be very hard to stop Wednesday this year. Shrewsbury Town, 19th. Shrewsbury are League One mainstays at this point, and with Steve Cottrell at the helm I don't see that changing. Based on their transfer business, there's definitely attempts to move forward with Tom Bayliss and Jordan Shipley joining. However, the Shrews' lack of consistency over the last couple of years looks set to continue, and although I've placed them low, I don't think they'll be dragged too far into a relegation battle. Wickham Wanderers, 7th. Wickham's overachieving has to stop at some point, right? Their unattractive yet effective football is hard to counter though, so I still think they'll be in the mix, but it's about time they start dropping off. They haven't really lost anyone that suggests they're going to be any weaker this year, and I'm sure Sam Vokes will still be a nightmare for defenders. But as this division gets stronger and stronger, I think Wickham will start dropping back. So to summarise, I've got Sheffield Wednesday and Ipswich to go up automatically. I'm not too sure who's going to be the best out of the playoffs. When it comes to the playoffs, it's more down to form than who's got the better squad, so that's fairly hard to predict. That's it. That's my predictions. If there's anyone I've missed out or anyone that you think is too high or too low, let me know in the comments. Anyway, thanks for watching and good luck to you and your team for the season.